Saturday morning time. You're in church girls. Yeah, hey girl.
Hey, girl.
Alright, that's so much better. Okay, thank you all for being here. Real quick, we've got some updates. We're gonna do our check-ins. So let's just dive right into our check-ins because today is really special. We obviously we know for the leadership who's been here for a while. Not having done this, we didn't really have 2 years off, right? We had 3 years off from planning from beginning to end the whole cycle. And in those 2 years, folks have moved away and had other things come up. And so we have a few open positions. And so as the staff leadership and volunteer leadership, we're like, why don't we just open this meeting up to the public? So if folks are interested, they can see what we do and how we do this stuff, have access to the trainings, and then hopefully make some relationships and see where folks are interested in. So we're going to do that for this meeting and next month. We'll do it for this meeting and for the April meeting. So if you are part of the longtime leadership of this organization or the community partner that you are here to represent, and you've been with us for a long time, can we get you to stand up for a second or raise your hand either way? We just want you to be acknowledged so folks know who to turn to. I see some folks who are, okay, so if you're with the leadership, long-term leadership, let's give them a round of applause. If you are new today and here to learn and make some new connections, and this is your first time, please raise your hand so we can find you. All right, you're back. Thank you so much. So we're going to go right into those check-ins because folks, for you who are new, who came to learn and see what we do behind the scenes and how to be a part of that, thank you so much for taking time out of your Saturday. We hope you find that connection today. So new folks, old folks.
Wow.
Long time legacy leadership volunteers. We're going to go do check-ins, so please, with at least folks who are new and not new, connect your name, please, your pronouns, what you do, either if you're a long-term leader, what you do, your role within San Diego Pride. If you are new, you can share your area of interest with the organization. And then we want to hear, what do you do professionally and what do you do for fun? Okay? So go ahead, mix, mingle, get to know someone, and we'll call you back in just a few minutes.
Okay. I was like, hi, I'm Ben. Nice to meet you. I'm new. This is my second meeting. So I'm going to be helping out at the festival. Oh, nice. What part of the festival? What I do I'm a I have experience with event planning. Okay. So I did that. I'm from Mexico. I used to do event planning for about 10 years. That was my job. I like hiking, beach, photography. What was your name again? Miguel. Miguel. Were you here last time? I was. This is my second. Are you good friends with Ray? Oh yeah. You're gonna get a new board. Yeah, something like that. They haven't told exactly what, but yeah. That's great. Ben, I'm the assistant parade manager, so on the parade side of things. And what I do for I work for one of the city council offices, so I'm the digital communications and engagement manager for one of the council members. So that's what I do for my job. And then for fun, I also like to hike. I love solo hikes, not as much like because I really love the solitude of just hiking on my own. Yeah. I've also taken my dog before, and he's kind of negative. So you don't like it? No, because he gets really hot, but also doesn't want to drink water, so he just gets right. It was a struggle. So definitely hiking. I have video games. I love art. So I'm really looking forward to that. Big I haven't played in one of these games.
I never. Yeah, I'm a big video game. Yeah. What restaurant?
It is poker restaurant. Like something along.
Yeah, I love poker. What restaurant?
It's in National City.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, so we had another one in Barcelona. We got last year. So we were also doing something new.
I love poker.
It is something. It is something.
I would be tempted to eat it all the time.
I eat it like pretty much all the time.
That's great. Well, I'm excited that we'll be able to work together here.
Yeah.
If you were the one person talking on one time, got it. There are people who why would you say that about Mark? That's Andy. Okay, great.
All right. Thank you for playing. I don't like this. I will use it. Just gonna use this one. Okay. Hope you made some new friends. Thank you. So we got a few updates today, and then we're going to get right into it because we got a pretty packed agenda. So today we're doing, if you saw, Race in the LGBT community, intersectional racial bias. So that's the training that we have today, and then followed by volunteer recruitment management and survey leadership. So for the new folks, this is how we do things. We do a check-in, we do some updates, and then every single month we have at least 2 trainings to make sure that we're leveling ourselves up, we're building our own capacity, and we're all on the same page about some of our ethics and values and systems, logistics, as we go into our region's largest civic event, right? We want to make sure we're taking care of people efficiently. So, unfortunately, starting with the not great part, for the leadership who is here and knows Bob, I know we all miss Bob very dearly. I'm going to start with that. You know, Bob was, as we know, in a terrible car accident a few weeks ago. And for the new folks, that is the longest tenured person in our organization, Bob Lay. He's been with us for about 27, 28 years in various capacities. So initially, it was looking like he would be in outpatient care within a week. That's obviously not the case at this moment. It was not great, the accident wasn't great, and he's taken a couple different turns in this. And so I wish I could share more. I'm obviously not able to share everything. I'm telling you that at the moment, they think he's going to be okay, he's going to recover. But it was a fairly traumatic incident, as you can imagine. And so the road to recovery is just going to look a lot longer than we had initially thought. And with, I know you folks who have been here for a while know how important Bob is to our organization. He's the person who actually oversees the parade and festival personnel, each of you, and make sure you all have what you need in the training and the coaching and the guidance and the mentorship that you need. That's Bob. And the fact that this room has grown from 8 or 12 folks in a small room to the large number of people and programs that we have is in large part to Bob, building on the legacy of folks like Chelly Muhammad, who's here today. Chelly, hi, can you wave and give Chelly a round of applause for So thank you for bearing with us. I know we've dropped the ball on a few things in the last couple of weeks as we, the staff. I just want to give a round of applause to the staff for picking up the additional pieces of this job. Can you please So obviously we can't, we're only 4 months away, so we can't not have someone in this position helping to guide us through. This is such a massive job. There's no way that we will be able to get through the next 3 to 4 months without someone in this position. Going into Pride, it's too important. That role is too important, and the staff is still so much already at capacity. There's no way we can do that. So we're going to find a way to protect Bob's job because we love Bob, but we're also going to find a way to have some interim level of support. So right now, there is an interim Pride coordinator position. It's a part-time, just a 12-hour week just to assist initially with some administrative support to help get us through at least the next couple of weeks while we get a better understanding of Bob's timeline. And so that is posted right now on the website. And in the interim, I just really also want to thank Mark Maddox, who in his professional life is a volunteer manager for Mama's Kitchen, one of our wonderful community partner organizations, and the senior leadership team for the Parade and Festival. Y'all have been stepping it up the last couple of weeks to take on this additional workload in the absence. And again, the fact that you all know how to do that and you're leaning into that work is just so inspiring to us and the staff because you're really helping with this carry through. So Mark and senior leadership, thank you so much. If you have Get Well cards, please bring them here to me or Dave, or you can drop them off at the Pride office. Also, we're asking people, if you have photos of you and Bob that you would like to share, please send them to info@sdpride.org. We're going to print them all out for Bob. So if you have any of those, you want to send them over the weekend, we're going to print all those, and we've got a nice gift basket full of tons of greeting cards from across our country. For Bob, we're going to give him all of those cards and all of those photos. He should actually be transferred to San Diego, maybe now. I'm waiting to hear, and so. Oh, he is now here at Mercy. Okay, thank you. He's back here at Mercy, so at least he's a little closer to home. It makes it easier for the Pride staff, the Pride board, who's been stepping up to help him and his husband and take care of Mika, the puppy, here. So again, thank you all. Sorry to do that long after for the new folks, but that is such a key and vital part of our organization. Thanks for bearing with us with that, and I love it to Bob. Just stretch it out. Okay, that's fine. I got you. You want me to give you a microphone? It's all over. We still got 5 minutes. So the other announcement is Sarah has let us know that she is moving up and on, and where is Sarah? Oh, please give your gratitude to Sarah, our accounting and office manager. Thank you for everything. So we have a full-time FTE salary and benefits position open. Right now, it's also on the website. It is our accounting and office manager. You have to know QuickBooks. You have to be real good at QuickBooks, girl. So if you want to apply, if you know somebody who would like to apply for that open position, please send them our way. We want to turn that around relatively quickly as well. It's Pride season, if you hadn't heard. Healing and Safer Communities update. So I know we sort of went over this last month, but for some of the new folks, you might recall in 2020, San Diego Pride board staff, this organization, and 71 co-San Diego organizations made the decision to temporarily remove law enforcement agencies from the parade festival while we centered our LGBTQ Black community members and listened to our Black and BIPOC community members to the policy reforms and changes that they wanted to see in our organization. After 2 years of work, we have come to a really interesting place of drafting 3 sets of policy positions. One is geared towards our organization, one is geared towards elected officials, and one is geared towards what actually is in the purview of our law enforcement agencies to handle on their own, right? They don't do a lot of the policy shit that happens at the elected official level. So there has been some misinformation, some very intentional misinformation about our organization and the work that we're doing. So the current draft that will be voted on next month allows for law enforcement to come back to the festival to do recruitment because we understood the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion from a recruitment standpoint. They're simply not allowed to have uniforms and firearms. The same is true for the parade. They're welcome back in the parade, not as agencies, but as LGBTQ law enforcement officers, or whatever they want to come as. They can come with Protect and Defend, which is a nonprofit that supports LGBT first responders. They can come with the city of San Diego. They can make their own LGBTQ law enforcement contingent, which I do know that there is an LGBTQ law enforcement contingent folks in uniforms. So they will be back in the parade, simply again without uniforms and without firearms. The other really cool thing is I met with the other Sheriff, Kelly Martinez, last week. Yes. And so for our medical team, she is also interested in getting volunteers from the Sheriff's Medical Department to volunteer in our medical department. I think I see our new medical person. Raise your hand. Andrew, right? Is it Andrew? Yes. So we'll be in touch. So that's really great to see, and that was part of what this work was all about. The sheriff's interested in having her staff volunteer for our medical team and for our safety and emergency exit team. And I think that's part of what we were all looking for, was a more authentic relationship with law enforcement. And so I'm really excited to see those steps happening with our local law enforcement. And thank you for all of you for being a part of that process. If you have any additional questions there, please feel free to hit me up at any point. Oh, and also, so if you see folks out there like spreading some misinformation about our organization or the work that we're doing, please feel free to send them my way. Happy to have the conversation. Feel free to educate yourself a little more about that program and process. So all that information is on sdpride.org/healing and safety, where you can go to the programs part of the website and you'll see the Healing and Safer Communities section, and you can go read more about all of that wonderful work. Oh crud, Dave, I was gonna have you, actually, I'm sorry. So, in May, we have to move either the location or the time of this meeting. And so, do you know the difference? I should just wait.
I can pull it up.
Okay, we'll ask y'all later. We'll pull you later, sorry, I was supposed to have that information. So in May, for May's meeting, we can either stay here and move the meeting a couple hours later, or we can keep the time and we would have to move to St. Paul's just because they have everything in the morning here. Also, the volunteer appreciation potluck is 4/16. We are going to do that. We're going to be in Clay's backyard. Clay, raise your hand. And if you've ever been to Clay's backyard, it's not just like a little backyard. It's not a small backyard. It's a very big backyard. So thanks play or donate in that space, we'll send out the RSVPs and information. And because we are, shifting our practices out of COVID, my father will be making carne asada and put us on a local. So the long-term volunteers are like, that's cooking again every year, girl. So be on the lookout for that. So it'll be after the next month's leadership meeting. We're going to do its volunteer appreciation week, and we're going to be making these apples. And also, like, one more announcement, I think, Mark, do you want to come up and talk about the volunteer launch? Give it up, Mark.
Good morning, folks. Welcome. So I know that we are getting ready for Pride, which means we need volunteers to come and work the probably 3,000 shifts that we have over the course of the weekend. Fantastic. We have to build those shifts in Better Impact. For folks that are new, Better Impact is the volunteer management software that we utilize to keep us organized, keep folks to communicate with our volunteers leading up to Pride, and to keep us on the same page. With the changes and the situation we're in now, I will be leading the process of getting shifts launched with some fantastic support from the rest of senior leadership, particularly Randy. Thank you, Randy. So our timeline and the process. So today, during our breakout sessions, we're going to be spending the majority of our time focused on reviewing 2019, because that was the last time we did this. 2019 shifts and seeing what changes, what we need to change, what we need to keep the same. I will remind folks with furnace in my head right now, saying that we need to sort of build our numbers up from what we were in 2019. For a while, we were on a trend of trying to be lean. Let's bring more folks in. Let's get more folks involved in Pride, and that way we can ensure that people get breaks. I'm even looking now at the shifts we had in 2019. I'm like, how does anyone get a break? Because there is no one to break them. So let's make sure that we're keeping an eye on the needs of your department, making sure that folks can have breaks, and building in that buffer so that if things always happen. So let's make sure that we're preparing for that now. So during breakout today, we're going to review those shifts. Your managers have already been sent that information. Theoretically, they also sent it out to you as well beforehand to review. We're going to spend time today looking at that. I need in my email, your managers have the email, by the end of the day on Friday, March 25th, I need all of the edits that we are going to make for Pride 2022. I will say it doesn't have to be perfect. Almost everything can be edited after the fact. Let's just get something started so that we can start volunteer recruitment. That following week, Randy and myself are going to start building out the shifts into Better Impact so that volunteers will be able to sign up for them. And then Monday, April 4th, all things considered, we will be opening up volunteer sign up for returning volunteers. And then the following week, we will open up volunteer sign up for new volunteers. So the key dates. Today, we're reviewing shifts. Next Friday, by the end of next Friday, I need any edits with the caveat that things can be changed again if needed. Monday, April 4th, we will launch sign up for returning volunteers. Monday, April 11th, we will launch sign up for new volunteers. Which is very exciting. It means it's real. We're actually getting volunteers signed up to do this thing in person. Yay.
Yeah, you can have that this time. Okay, we're like 5 minutes. You guys can stretch. I think we're good now, right? We good? All right. I get a thumbs up from Kelsey. She said we have things to do. HR. Oh, church. All right. For the new. To the new folks, again, thank you so much for being here and understanding the process that goes in behind this. I hope you make connections. And so we've got your information. The new folks, we've got your information. But I hope that after we go through these next couple pieces of training, we'll do our breakouts so you can connect with the different departments that you want to think you might be interested in, and make sure you make that connection, because our leadership will then be following up with you one-on-one, okay? So our first training today is on racial bias and racial justice and intersectionality. You know that one of our core values is racial justice here at San Diego Pride. And so please, oh my gosh, Courtney Kirton, Please give a round of applause for Courtney here, who's going to take us through all of that. Thank you so much for being here. Give them a raise and a welcome.
Hello?
Oh, is it off?
I think it's on. Oh, maybe I heard something different.
Hello everyone, how are we doing?
Doing good.
Can we get like a vibe check, like a color for everyone? Purple, okay, thank you.
Same. Purple.
Purple vibes, I like
Pink plaid.
that. The pride flag, the pride flag.
Yes.
Okay, well, first of all, I want to thank everyone for being here. It really means a lot. I feel very blessed to be in this position right now. Also, I feel blessed in the church, so it's good intersection right there. So we're talking about intersectionality, and I want to be intentional with how we start with our time. So we're going to go over a land acknowledgement.
Yes.
And I want to also do a disclaimer that it took me a while to find this land acknowledgement because I wanted to make sure that it was not only thorough, but it gave options and just, I would say, like, really a chance for allies to show up and to really unpack, like, how are we profiting off this land, in what ways we can be better and be more aware. So I'm not sure I know it's a lot, so I'm going to read all of it. And at the end, there is a number and also there's a URL that I'm going to tell everyone. And then you're going to type in your zip code and it'll tell you what land you're on. And after we say the land acknowledgement, I would love if everyone could say the land that they are on. That is really powerful to see. Just in general, like where we're all at here and what we can do to be better. So we are going to start. What is land acknowledgement? A land acknowledgement is a formal statement given by all people who are not indigenous to a territory that recognizes and respects indigenous peoples as traditional stewards of this land and the enduring relationship that exists between indigenous peoples and their traditional territories. We recognize this land because it is an expression of gratitude and appreciation to those whose territories you reside on, and a way of honoring the indigenous people who have been living and work on the land from the time that was originally started. It is important to understand the long-standing history that has brought you to reside on the land, and to seek to understand your place within that history. Land acknowledgements do not exist in the past tense or historical context. Colonization, colonialism, or what scholars call settler colonialism, is a current ongoing process, and we need to build on mindfulness of our present participation. It is also worth noting that acknowledging the land is Indigenous protocol. So entering into a relationship comes with an expectation of reciprocity, that we support the self-determination and sovereignty of tribal nations. What does that look like for those individuals who are not Indigenous and who are settlers on Kumeyaay lands? I'm speaking again in I statements, but for me as well, and for everyone as well in the room who is not Indigenous, it really does include educating yourself about the Kumeyaay histories, experiences, and contemporary issues, supporting the Kumeyaay business, both owned by tribal nations themselves and the tribal members, donating to nonprofit organizations and efforts that center Kumeyaay needs, Kumeyaay community colleges, and land conservancies, and Southern Indian Health Councils, and these are quite literally just a few of the things that we can do. And also, we want to create and support opportunities for Kumeyaay people to center their voices and tell their own narratives, specifically to pay them for their time, experience, and expertise. And finally, but this is really not the last thing, we want to build and continue to build the relationships with, and we want to make sure that we're being good stewards of the land while we're here in San Diego and anywhere. So now is the time that I'm going to share the number. I know it's really small, so I'm gonna say it really slowly. But the number that I would love everyone to text is, and let me know when you're ready. And what you're gonna text this phone number is your zip code, and it'll say what land you're from, or what your land that you're currently residing on. And the number is 907-312-5085. And once everyone is done, we are going to all say the land that we're on. And I also want to acknowledge that this land acknowledgement was specifically from the University of San Diego's University Tribal Liaison and the Office of Tribal Liaison. So not only is this extremely, and I really do mean like extremely comprehensive, but it does say a lot that the people that made this are a part of the Indigenous community, and that here we are, they are doing the work. And that is something that needs to be addressed, that they did the most and they're doing the work here. Has everyone texted their zip code? Okay. Well, however you feel comfortable in the next minute, I would love if we could all say the land that we are on. I'm gonna start. Kumeyaay Nation.
Kumeyaay as well.
Yeah, as well.
Thank you. Okay. We're going to, but we're not gonna forget the land acknowledgement. Intentionality, that was the number one thing. So we're moving on to introductions and community guidelines. So I will introduce myself. My name is Courtney Kierton. I use they, them pronouns, just very recent change. So if you see in the agenda, it's she, they, growth. So I'm a graduating senior at University of San Diego. I'm studying psychology, women and gender studies, and leadership, as well as graduating in less than 70 days. I'm also a general council member with San Diego Black LGBTQ+ Coalition. Shout out. So that is the introduction, but I really want to highlight and emphasize the community guidelines. So we have many here. The first three are extremely important, but the ones that I want to make sure are relevant are the ones that are bolded. So we'll just go over them. Honor and be open to difference. Own your intentions, but more importantly, center your impact. Lean into discomfort and observe your resistance. And then we're going to the bolded ones. So speak for yourself, use I statements. Discuss issues of if someone in the room is impacted by them, and that is my favorite community guidelines wherever I go. Another one that I love, what's said here stays here, what's learned here leaves here. So if there is personal information, thank you for sharing and thank you for your vulnerability, but we're not, what stays in this room will forever be in here, and we're not bringing that out. But the lessons that you have learned in this room, you're more than welcome to take away with you and share with others. And then, come as you are to discover, assert and empower your voice to whatever that means for you. My favorite one that I put up on here, vulnerability is a spectrum. You do not have to share everything to share. You can share what you feel comfortable with. We all have our own definition of a safe space, and a brave space, and a safer space. And our definitions and our own boundaries are really important and need to be highlighted. Does anyone have any other community guidelines as we go through this part of the meeting? And if not, that's totally okay. Yes?
Breathe.
Breathe?
Breathe.
Breathe, okay. Retweet, I like that. Okay, thank you, thank you. We're gonna do a 3 breath when we're done. So that's, obviously this is is foreshadowing, but that's when you put your hand over your heart and take 3 breaths collectively, because in general, having these conversations to whatever degree is heavy, and we need to release that heaviness. But thank you. What is your name?
Emma.
Emma? Thank you. And moving on. So I wanted to make this interactive because I know when I'm, a audience member at trainings, I can fall asleep. Not only do I have severe ADHD, but I fall asleep. So we're going to do visualization, and this is the implicit bias activity. Previously, it was sent out in the Harvard IAT test. Not only was there race, but there are other options. I highly recommend doing all of them. It's just great to be self-aware where you're at, especially unconsciously. But for this implicit bias activity, what we're going to do, we're going to close our eyes, and we're going to clear our minds. I will call out a type of person. Using your imagination, picture the person. I encourage you to think very detailed, very specific of each person, and maybe even a narrative about this person. Your description should include, let's say, physical features, dress or home environment, lifestyle even. This is a stream of consciousness exercise, and you will not have to share with anyone. Also, most importantly, there are no right or wrong answers. You will not, again, like if you feel comfortable sharing with someone, you have the ability to do that, but don't feel pressure to turn around and tell your next door neighbor, oh, this is what I have, this is, do what's best for you. After I give you a few words, for example, one of them, female lawyer, later on after we're all done with the exercise, I will give you more information about them, and you will see how the information I give you changes your brain and what you originally thought about that person and to whatever degree of lived experience. So is everyone ready? Okay. We're going to start. African American woman. Female lawyer. Gay man. Decorated veteran. White man. Immigrant woman. Transgender man. White woman. I'm going to say them again one more time. I'm going to give everyone 90 seconds, and then I'm going to give you more information. So we're going to go from the top. African American woman. Female lawyer. Gay man. Decorated veteran. White man. Immigrant woman. Transgender man. And white woman. I'm going to give you all 90 seconds. Okay, considering that time is a colonial construct and the social construct, we're second. African women, widow, single mother, extremely wealthy, chief of cardiology at renowned hospital. Female lawyer, American Indian, Chippewa Nation, 64 years old, works for a larger multinational corporation. Gay man, Japanese ancestry, father of 2, just celebrated his 82nd birthday. decorated veteran, unable to maintain full-time employment, amputee, suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder, homeless. White man, world-class athlete, requires a wheelchair for mobility, motivational speaker. Immigrant woman, college student, East European homeland, identifies as an atheist. Transgender man, engineer with a master's degree from Stanford. Mexican American, works at a tech startup company. And white woman, hospital executive, diagnosed with severe bipolar disorder, so essentially bipolar 1, that's the most severe. Pager. What are our thoughts?
At first, I pictured people that I knew in my real life. My friends, my mom, etc. And then as more details started coming into it, I started picturing just just different people that I maybe have seen on a daily basis, but hadn't actually interacted with.
Can you say your name?
My name is Sophie.
Sophie Browns?
Anyways.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Looking for another hand. Thank you.
Daniel, I think originally I just pictured young folks because that's the group that I socialize with, the boys and the folks. So I think I just assumed everyone that you were speaking on was my age or middle age. No one would.
Thank you. I think that brings in our own version of, I can say, ageism and isms in general. This is it, each of them, but it's good to know where we're at. Because I was in the same boat where I did not expect a gay man to be 82 years old. And what does that say? Everything is data, you just say that. But thank you. And we're looking for 3 more hands. Thank you, people in the back.
Melanie, Nathan, I think I realized that my bias was generally just seeing more white people in a lot of those descriptors until you said Japanese and immigrants and Eastern European. I think I generally saw people that Sophie did that I knew who happened to have these identities, but generally were white because of my lack of exposure to people that were not white in those identities.
Thank you. Thank you. I know there was someone else in the back. Thank you.
Hi, Eric Egan. 2 things. It's very easy to stereotype. And as you go through descriptors of the person as opposed to the profession, it's very easy again to pigeonhole those professions into the specific race.
Thank you. One more person. Sarah.
Oh my God, more white. All of them are white. What she said before. What's that saying?
Data. Thank you all. This has personally been one of my favorite exercises that I've ever done in the training, because no matter who you are and your lived experience, you will learn something about yourself. And I think that is very important. Okay, so we're moving on to microaggressions. And I do want to have a disclaimer in general that this is going to be very different depending on your lived experience and your comfortability with engaging in the topic, and I want to acknowledge that. There are some individuals in this room who have received microaggressions. There are other individuals in this room that may have been present when a microaggression has been said. But I think in general, we can all be in the same boat of understanding intention versus impact. That's the goal, hopefully. So, and again, I really do apologize for the inaccessibility for blow up. But on the left side, the picture is multiple versions of microaggressions specifically for Black people and women. So I will just name them. One of them, you are an Oreo. You act white. You talk white. I mean, you're not black like that. You don't really count. I thought you were intimidating before I talked to you. I wish I was tan like you. You look exactly like. Okay. Last one, the kicker. Before I met you, I didn't know black people could be pretty. And the reality of it is, I got this from an Instagram. I DM'd the person, and I was like, can I use this? And they were like, please, please, yes. And they said, every single thing that I said, someone has said to me. And I was like, that's me. And I can count, if there's 10 here, and I'm just ballparking, I think I have heard 7 out of 10. So that's a C-, and that's passing, like from an academic sense. That's sus. And then on the right, there is a beautiful description of white supremacy and the difference between overt white supremacy, which is now known as socially unacceptable, and covert white supremacy, which is socially acceptable. Covert white supremacy, perfect example, microaggressions. Overt white supremacy, perfect example, denial of white privilege, not believing experiences of people of color, Make America Great Again, Confederate flags. Very different, but still under the umbrella of overall racism, which to me says a lot. So I'm going to open up the floor. So the quote that I have from a psychology professor at John Jay College of Criminal Justice says that microaggressions are defined as the everyday, subtle, intentional, and some oftentimes unintentional interactions or behavior that communicate some sort of bias towards historically marginalized groups. The difference between microaggressions and overt discrimination or macroaggressions is that people who commit microaggressions might not even be aware of them. This goes back to our implicit bias activity and our own stereotypes to a certain extent. I don't necessarily think, again, my statements, I wasn't aware that I was only thinking young people until there was more information given that 2 of them were older than 60. And in my head, I'm thinking, sometimes, and I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm thinking in my head, what does that mean in terms of, oh, a professor, how old am I think the professor is? And more likely than not, I'm thinking that the professor is under 45. And that's just data. That really is data. But now I know that information, I'm going to try to actively be more aware that not only is there diversity, but we can do better and be better. So I'm going to open up the floor and not necessarily talk about microaggressions, but go to the next about interrupting a microaggression. So there are different options. You can pull someone aside if they say a comment. You can confront someone, but my definition of confrontation is really having a direct conversation. I think there's a distinction and difference. You can email them. Let me tell you, I've emailed dissertations. I promise you that. I really have. You can also say, I actually just learned, or I actually just learned from X this person. That is not something you should say. One I heard recently, fun fact, that is culturally insensitive. It's a very Gen X thing to say. Very Gen Z, yeah, Gen Z. Very Gen Z. And I think what's really important, regardless of which one you do, is to understand the time and place and the safety in the room and safety of yourself. And I say that because I've been in situations where it is not safe to say something or address it. And that is so valid, and that's so totally okay. But in general, when you are interrupting microaggressions, your safety should always come first. And that should be the main priority. And then also you can educate someone versus, you can just say intention versus impact and make someone else unpack it for themselves. You don't have to do that work. So I'm asking everyone here, I'm going to ask for 5 hands. What are some ways that either you have stepped in, you've heard of someone else stepping in, or things that you would want to do to step in to interrupt a microaggression or a conversation that is biased?
One thing that I will always say is whether it's confrontation, I think it's a very slow confrontation, and I'll say, oh, what do you mean by that? It's a very, like, let them unpack it, let them find what they mean, and then if safe, again, use that opportunity to educate.
Thank you. Another hand, or about to popcorn. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, Brian, I have a family member that has a child with Down syndrome, and so the one remark I hear all the time in passing is, "That's retarded." And so I always make sure to say, I usually say in the moment, like, "That's deeply inappropriate, please don't say that again." And, usually it's either met by someone thinking or being deeply offended that I dare to say something to them. But either way, I can't really go without saying something about it, because it offends me, and it's wrong.
Period. Thank you. I also, I know for me, the ableist comments that I have been really checking is like stupid, lazy, dumb, crazy, insane. Because we use them so often and they're in our vocabulary that it doesn't seem like there's a problem. When the bigger problem is that we're so used to them. That's the real problem. So if you hear any of those, no one to do. Just kidding. I'm not kidding, but okay, we have 30 more hands.
First, begins in looking around the lines of what we were just talking about is the term "that's gay." That to me, growing up, I grew up in the Mormon religion and going through all that process, I heard it so much that it became something that I even stated just because I wanted to fit in. But then as I grew up and started to reach out into my own community and realizing that it's a different meaning behind the term than what I mean behind, it became more personal for me that when it's said, I'm like wanting them to understand how deeply it cuts me, because that's not a term that I would see as kind in the sense of the way that they're providing. And so I just had to make sure that they understood, and just pulling them to the side myself and saying, hey, as someone that cares about you or as a friend, I just need you to understand how that makes me feel. So that way you understand that I'm not the only person that might be feeling this way.
Thank you. And we're gonna have Sophie, right? One more person. Oh, okay. We'll do that.
As a female growing up in the South, I was told all the time that I could not like girls. That is not what we stand for. You have to be with a male, that's it. And I was closeted for a very, very long time. And it wasn't until I had moved away that I had felt comfortable enough to actually be myself and play my bisexuality. But at the same time, it wasn't up until about 2-3 years ago that I was able to claim my polysexuality as well. And going and telling family members that have instantly stated, you're with a man, you've had babies, that's it, you can't have anything else, has hurt. And to say that a child can't be who they are and they can't live to themselves is super frustrating just based on where they live at. And the fact that it's happening in Florida now. And my parents are now finally seeing that children are in danger. And the fact that that's how I live, it's, oh, hey, this is not okay anymore. Like, this is what our daughter lived through saying that just because you are female presenting and have the autonomy to produce children and have all of the female identities, that you have to be with a male and you have to have children, it's just wrong. And it happens a lot.
Thank you. And I'm gonna say, I know we are close to a time boundary, so thank you for everyone's vulnerability. It really does mean a lot. I know it definitely creates a more comfortable space for people that completely resonate with what you're saying, because I resonate with everything you're saying here. So to conclude, I want to acknowledge that we all are on different journeys of social justice, and that journey is really dependent on our lived experience and intersectionalities, even social locations. But we all have work to do, regardless of our lived experience, our place, and our journey. We all can do more to unpack and really check our individual relationships with white supremacy and patriarchal social conditioning. First of all, to conclude officially, I do want to thank everyone for the time. Shout out to SD Pride, shout out to Jen, shout out to SD Black LGBTQ+ Religious Coalition. We can just go to our acknowledgement stage, and then I want everyone, because I'm Gen Z, if we take a selfie, that would be great. And I'm gonna pass over the mic. Thank you so much, I really appreciate it.
Go for it. What's in the judge?
Between first time, meeting.
We'll do both at the same time. Very cool. Everyone smile.
You know, that's truly
Courtney, thank you so much for your time, for sharing your skill. Can we please give our gratitude one more time to Courtney? We're so honored to have you with us and to share that and to open this up into being vulnerable as we reflect on our biases and how that informs the work ahead. There's so much more to do, and I think as we go, as we recruit, as we build leaders, understanding how our biases inform that is really important. And so next up, we have Shiloh Tweer and Randy Pittman to talk about steroid leadership. So please give them a round of applause as we talk about good stuff today. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So as Fern said, and as Mark said also, we are a little bit behind the curve here as far as getting volunteers. I know the original plan was by March 15th, the site would be open, volunteers would sign up, obviously that didn't happen. We can still make this work. I mean, April 4th is not difficult. As long as we work together as a team, we can make it happen. So, and because it has been so long since we've contacted our volunteers, worked with our volunteers, this is going to offer a little kind of refresher, trying to get us into the volunteer kind of mindset again. So, actually, you can see it pretty well there. That's pretty. So, let's start. Recruitment. We'll start with recruitment. First, you have to know what your volunteer needs are. And this is what Mark was talking about as far as building out our shifts. And so myself and Mark will help you build out your shifts. You really can't contact your volunteers until you know exactly what you need. Earlier this week, I sent out, at least from the festival side, your 2019 roster of your volunteers. Those are the people who you want to reach out to first. I know it's been 3 years since you may have contacted them, but they do know the system, they do know what needs to be done, you kind of have a relationship with them, so we want you to really reach out to them first. Next, social media. So I have a love-hate relationship with social media. Sometimes social media is really ugly and disgusting, you want to just throw everything away, but sometimes it can be very beautiful. So we're going to focus on the beautiful side of social media, where you create invites and invite all your friends and people you know to volunteer. Next, we go into our community, and you want to have your friends, your family, hopefully your family loves you, and your coworkers and your teammates. And the key here is share, share, share. Next slide, please. Keep close contact with your volunteers. This is critical. The more communication you have with your volunteers, the more likely they are to show up. First thing you're going to do is send a welcome email. You're going to introduce yourself, give your name, your title, your pronouns, that's very important. Thank them for signing up to volunteer with Pride. Every year, in typical years, we have events every year, we do that, but this year is even more important because it's been such a long gap. You really, really want to thank them for signing up, to trusting us to put on this amazing event after a hiatus of 3 years. Remind them of their shift date and time. Of course, remind them when the festival and the parade is. And give a small introduction to your department. So when volunteers sign up, they'll see a little bit about what your department does and what it is, but in your email, I want you to expand on it to know exactly what they're going to be doing. Next slide. Hold a department or area training. We are all here conducting training so we can do our job as well. We have to afford the same courtesy to our volunteers. Holding a training allows you to meet your volunteers, go into more in depth about what you're going to be doing. You get a chance to talk about what we learned here. Now, in the coming months, we're going to have trainings on like safety and security and heat training. You need to pass some information on to your volunteers. It is critical. Also, we're going to go over the San Diego Pride Code of Conduct. I actually have the Code of Conduct, and so I can email it out to all of you can share with your volunteers. I do have it. I actually have a PowerPoint presentation I can give you that you can share it to your volunteers in your trainings. When you hold the trainings, in the last meeting, Dave mentioned that they have a nice, big, beautiful conference room that you can use. Also, if there's one kind of positive that's come out of this pandemic, it's that we've had to learn to communicate in different means, and that is using online, whether it's Zoom or Google Meet. Do that, the combination of both. Basically, there's no reason why you can't train your volunteers. Next slide. Contact, contact, contact. You're going to see this word a lot in the presentation. Sorry, because it is very important that you contact your volunteers. So we want you to contact your volunteers at least once every 2 weeks. When we get towards the end of June, contact them every single week. The Sunday before the event and the night before the shift, send them an email or call them. More contact means less no-show volunteers. Now, we're not covering Better Impact at all, it's going to be done later, but there is a way we can create templates into Better Impact. If you need help setting that up, I will gladly help you to get that started. So just click your volunteers, send an email out to them to make it easier for you. To track your volunteers, you can create a list so you know who you contacted, how they responded, if they've attended trainings. And one thing I want to say about the volunteers is we don't really want to lose a volunteer. But if you're contacting a volunteer, you're not getting any response, by all means, you have my permission to remove them from your volunteer list. If you don't want to do that, I will gladly do that for you. In my department, I remove volunteers who I don't get any response from. I would rather you have an empty space that can be filled by somebody versus having a volunteer you're just hoping that they show up. On the day of the event, create a little cheat sheet. Give them information about what they're going to be doing. Remind your volunteers that when their shift is done to enjoy the festival, remember it's a 5-hour shift, they can get in for free. Make them aware of the picnic in August. Retention. This is important. So it has been a while since we've have volunteers and we need to keep them coming back in the future. So how do we retain our volunteers? So after the weekend and you've had a time to reflect and enjoy everything, contact volunteers again, the key word here is contact, thank them for helping make a successful event, ask them if they completed the volunteer survey, ask them if there's anything that can be done, improvements, what they liked, what they didn't like. Identify volunteers for higher positions. This is where you can find your volunteers who want to be your supervisors. And again, remind them to come to the picnic. Contact. I really love that word a lot. So, contact intuitively when you see them at the picnic, go up to them and say, thank you for volunteering, greet them. Again, thank them numerous times. Have them, we do Pride 365, we reach out to them throughout the year. If you're so inclined, contact them on their birthday, the holidays, anything you can do to kind of keep them coming back to volunteer for you. One more time, you may hate me for this, but recruit your volunteers in the community, social media, previous year volunteers, again, contact, shows us their gratitude, and once again, contact.
Yeah.
So remember, one of the best recruitment and retention tools is to have fun and enjoy the work you are doing. So there is my email. If you can see, it's very simple. It's randy@sdpi.org. If you need help as far as recruiting or anything else, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I will be more than happy to talk you through whatever it is we talk through.
So that's how we contact you?
Yes.
You can contact. Got it.
So now we have the volunteers. Now we need to talk about how we manage and lead our volunteers. And it's been a while for some of us, and it's pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. Next slide. Volunteer morale. This is what you have to do. You have to build your volunteer morale so that they do a good job for you and they keep coming back. And there's pretty much 3 steps to doing that. First, build trust by knowing your volunteers. Get to know their name, get to know their pronouns. In volunteer check-in, we have like 80 volunteers. I try to know all their names. One thing you say about Bob is really good at remembering names. I still don't know how he does it. He was like, you know that volunteer? I'm like, I remember the name. I really don't remember the name. That's something I'm really bad at. Like, one thing I can say about Bob, he's really good at knowing people's names. If you catch a volunteer doing something right, Bob came up with a term called pride done. So it's a job done, job well done, pride done. Volunteers record well to praise. They want to praise their volunteers when they do something right. Redirect negative energy, don't dwell on mistakes. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Things are gonna go wrong during Pride Weekend. And I know you probably hate me for saying that, but for 24 years doing this, I know it's gonna happen. But although things go wrong, we learn to adapt and overcome and fix it. We've never had to shut down when things have gone wrong. It took a pandemic for us to actually shut down the festival event, right? And so when you have volunteers and they make a mistake, the one thing you don't want to do is dwell on it too much, just fix it and move on. Because as soon as you dwell on it, then it becomes about a mistake, it becomes about a volunteer. And now you're belittling that volunteer. Now you're making that volunteer real bad. And now the volunteer's like, well, I'm not gonna come back and volunteer again. Look at what happened to me. So we don't want to do that. If you feel you're about to get really mad at your volunteering at the festival, I highly encourage you, come to the village, grab a bottle of water. We don't have anything stronger than energy drinks. If you come and find me, I'm in the village, and we will go grab a picnic table, or we'll go sit underneath the tree, and we will talk it out. I will talk it off the ledge. I'm pretty much very calm during the event. I'm pretty much what you see right now is how I am. So I will gladly, let's talk it out. What's going on? Let's figure it out. Let's work on this. Just so you don't get to that point where we lose a volunteer. Next slide. Situational leadership. So now, how you manage your volunteers, how you lead them is different depending on the level of experience volunteers have. For new volunteers, they have low knowledge, high commitment. These are the ones who are gung ho. They're ready to do everything like, let's go in and just make this happen. They're very leader driven. You kind of have to direct them as what to do. You begin building relationships and also give them a private, like good feedback. Coaching and supporting. These are the volunteers who come back maybe once a year. You don't really have to direct them that much. They know what's going to do, but you still have to practice a little bit of leadership. Next, are your superstar volunteers delegating? I love these volunteers, and I'm going to quickly use volunteer check-in as an example. Saturday morning, I show up at the village. I have volunteers show up at 6 o'clock. All I have to do is go with the mobile committee. They will take all the stuff out, set up volunteer check-in without me saying a word. They know exactly what needs to be done. They know exactly how it's got to look. I trust them. I can just walk away and do whatever. They'll take care of it. And these are the ones who you want to wink, identify for more responsibility like supervisors. Telling. There's only one time we'll use telling, and that is in an emergency situation. This is where ultimate authority, there's no discussion, your word is bond. For example, there is a child missing inside the festival. Shut down the gates until it's done. You basically, and that's basically kind of be authoritative, but you have to do it this way. Communication is also one way. Finally, get to know your volunteers, build their trust. Prior well done, know where your volunteer is on the leadership scale, and finally, have fun. Any questions or concerns? Yes.
Heat and anger is correlated in summer.
Yes.
So like the correlation versus causation is like, oh, is violence with ice cream sales? Like, what is that? It's like, no, ice cream sales and violence are all with the summer months. So if someone's angry, bringing them in the shade and giving them water, and like putting them ice here and like here helps you calm down a lot more so you don't cut somebody out.
Yes.
Using I statements, because I just do well.
Any other questions? Okay, that's it. Like I said, you can contact me, randy@stpride.org, and now I'm going to hand it over to Shada.
Fantastic. All right. Hi, everyone. It is so nice to see so many familiar faces, but also so many new faces. This room is like as full as I've ever seen it, and it's so incredibly exciting. So hi, my name is Charlotte. I use they and them. I am involved in Pride in a multitude of ways, but I'm just really excited to be here and talk to you guys a little bit about the stairway to leadership, which I had the privilege to kind of climb myself. And I did want to kind of plug in General Barbara, who couldn't be here today, but who did make this fantastic presentation. I changed like 3 words. Like this is Jen's presentation. Like, I'm not gonna get myself. All right. So the stairway to leadership is this idea of kind of promoting from within and bringing kind of creating your leadership structure with the volunteers that you already have. So instead of trying to bring in someone maybe at, like for the festival parade, like a manager or coordinator position, let's maybe try to focus on seeing our volunteers who are coming in and growing them and teaching them the skills they'll need and then kind of promoting them from within. So how does the stairway to leadership work? So we're filling in that pipeline of leadership first of all. We have a plan. Thank God. I don't know how many programs and Pride are here, but when we start, sometimes we start as babies. And I can say, like, especially for the youth programs, which I was a part of for many years, we have no idea where we're going to get our leadership from. So just from like step 1, it's fantastic to have, at least a basic plan of this is where we plan on getting our leadership where it can help us grow our organization, our event in the future. So it also helps with building skills over time. So we're gonna learn, skill A at event 1, skill B at event 2, and then when we're helping run event 3, like guess what? We know skills A and B now. Like that's so exciting. We're kind of like I mentioned earlier, there's those like community-led leadership development, like let's kind of build from within, let's promote internally, let's really help and hold on to our own and try to help build our community a little bit. And it's also a very sustainable leadership practice. We're very unlikely going to run out of people to kind of self-promote as long as you're kind of continuously reaching out and recruiting even just your kind of most basic level volunteers, for lack of a better term for that. All right, so here we have an example of what a general stairway to leadership might be. I know it's probably really hard to see in the back, but very well planned. I'm really good at that. We have notes. So kind of what we have here on our stairway is our bottom one is a supporter. They're a name on a mailing list. They're just, they might not even be showing up yet. So their name on the list, eventually maybe one of our emails gets them to come up and they show up as, attending the event or volunteering for the first time. So here we go, we make that introduction, we make that connection. And soon they're a regular volunteer, that's our next one up. So they're regular, they're coming, we're building, for a first name basis. Maybe I know their dog's name now, I know a little bit about them. We're genuinely kind of becoming part of the group together. So from our regular volunteer, we want to get them to a place where they're training the new volunteers. So I'm like, hey, Mark, you've been volunteering with us for a good few months now. You're fantastic at what you do. Kim, it's like her birthday, and I'm really busy. Could you show me what's going on? Thank you so much, bye. Right? I don't know if many of us who are regular volunteers here at Pride are very used to that. Thank you so much for training. I'll see you in 30, I'm so busy. But it works out, it works. Now we have another awesome training volunteer. We've got a volunteer who's now getting used to training others. And then our top one on this particular example is a recruiter. So Mark, he started coming, he was a regular, he started training like him and the others, and now he's going out, we're taking him with us, he's actively recruiting out in spaces. So there we go, like he built a leader. There we go, here he is. All right. So I do have youth programs as an example up here because, it's Jen's presentation. So Jen is in a youth program. Also, I was in a youth program, so very convenient in that way. So for the youth programs, it's a little different because every different organization's stairway leadership is going to look a little different. So for the particular youth programs example, we have that first-time attendee, maybe you're in middle school and high school, you heard about us through your school, your counselor, your therapist, whoever. You show up, you have a great time because the youth programs are awesome, and you're like, hey, these people are really cool. I'm gonna start coming back regularly. So now you've come a few times, maybe it's been a few weeks or months, and then we would tend to be like, hey, we're cleaning up right now. Would you mind picking up this trash? Like, do you mind helping us put away these chairs since you're here? And if it's that person who kind of seems to be really excited, they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'd love to help. They usually start asking how they can help in the future. Eventually, you're like, ooh, this kid's got something going on. So we call them youth ambassadors. So next, that would probably be a youth ambassador training. Maybe we start inviting them to our youth ambassador meetings. Maybe we ask them what they'd like to do in the future. What programming would you like to see? They kind of get used to that role. They're happy with the youth ambassador responsibilities. And now they're our youth ambassador. They're putting on, they're running, they're finding those new volunteers, those two attendees who maybe would like to help clean up some plates or put away some chairs. And that cycle kind of continues. And then the top rung for the youth program, for example, is the TAY ambassador. It's our transitional age youth. So in this example specifically, we have where they're kind of aged out and are now in that final step of youth programming. Okay. So this one might be a little more relevant to you all. It's our festival and parade example. So it's pretty much exactly the same concept, but with some language that might be a little bit more familiar to you all. So I'm going to breeze through this one a little bit more fast, but we have first-time volunteer to returning volunteer, from returning volunteer to like a lead, from a lead to a coordinator or co-coordinator, and then from there, our top rung is like a manager, or maybe like if someone wanted to, like perhaps the festival parade, it would be like the festival parade managers and all that. So what I'm really hoping for us to all get out of this is think about where you are with Pride now and how you got to where you were. How did you hear about Pride? Who were the people who made you want to stay? And what did they do that made you want to stay? Like I could tell you, I had countless Pride staff members. And just, because I'm dating myself. I was 14 when I started with the Pride youth program.
14.
So I was this baby, like an actual fetus. I'm 18 now, so it hasn't actually been that long. It was a joke, but it was just for me. Thank you. So when you're an actual child walking around the Pride office, you do attract a bit of attention. So you do have these adults being like, how's life? How's school? Do you need help? How are your parents? What's going on? And through that, I had so many loving people who were so incredibly invested in my life just because I was a queer young person. And like, were they living vicariously through me being under 14?
Maybe.
Absolutely. Same thing to like the 13, 14-year-olds in programs now, so like I kind of want to take it personally. But tangent aside, think to yourself, like, what did people do that made me want to come back? So I would say like these people just so obviously genuinely cared about my well-being and my life outside of Pride. Their first question was never like, how can I contribute to Pride? It was always like, how can we help you? How can Pride help you in the other way around? So that's my personal reason. That's why I came back. That's why I stayed. So, sheesh, that took me a long time to get back to my point. That is, think about how you got to Pride.
We love you.
And think about how you can kind of encourage your volunteers to keep coming back, and how can you help them grow, however they would like to grow. Thank you. So again, you can't really see it, it's up there, but this is my blank slate. And it's basically, if you want to take a picture, feel free. It's an extremely basic concept. But I wanted this up here to show you, like, your story leadership can look like anything. It just needs to work for you. It doesn't need to look like anything you had up. Maybe yours doesn't start at first timers. Maybe yours starts way before first timers. Maybe first timers aren't even on there. Who knows? I don't. You do.
Yeah.
So think about that a little bit. Let's think about how we want to like grow our internal volunteers. Next slide, please. Thank you. Kelsey's killing it back there, by the way.
Yeah.
You can't see her. That's no joke. That job, I would be stressed out of my mind. So basically, I just want to leave you with a few thoughts of who's next. Can you think of any specific names in your organization who you want to internally promote? And if you don't have any names right off the top of your head, like within the next minute or so when I finish this presentation, I would really encourage you to work on that as soon as possible. Because Pride is quickly approaching. It's going to be here before we know it. And we really want to make sure that we're promoting internally, we're keeping our volunteers' growth in mind, while also, of course, like respecting their boundaries. Not everyone wants to grow. People are going to be very happy where they are. So by having a kind of consistent stairway leadership and always being on the lookout, you're also consistently growing your leadership team, and that way your leadership team can maybe avoid some burnout. If they know, because if you're on a small leadership team, you know, like it's just me, like I am the only one maybe holding my program together. But if we're consistently promoting from within, you're like, well, it's okay because I need to take this weekend off. Like, look, there's other people who can do my job. It's always good, and we know as Pride volunteers, we're really good at delegating. So that's about it for me. So thank you so much.
Let's give Shiloh one more round of applause.
So like Shiloh's never shy, obviously. So another round of applause for Randy Pittman. So I hope that you're understanding this sort of framework today, right? We talked about implicit bias and how that informs our lens and the way we navigate the world. And then we're talking about different journeys and pathways to leadership. And so hopefully you're putting some framework around that and making those connections. I love seeing as folks are lifted up and as you lift each other up in this way, you know, folks who are first-time volunteers on a rainy, remember the rain year? This is his first year. You know, whether you were tearing tickets in your first volunteer shift and then you just, or whatever. What I did. Tearing tickets to your first volunteer shift and then coming back for more. And coming back again and elevating your leadership. I've seen people come from one-time Fred entry grade or security entrance volunteers to like employees. So a lot of even the employees that we have at Pride started off as volunteers. I think it's a really wonderful thing that we get to do here as well. Or even use the leadership skills that you're learning within San Diego Pride to help elevate you into other careers. And so I've seen that happen as well, and that's been a really wonderful thing to be a part of. So keep lifting each other up. I want to give a couple other brief announcements before we go into breakouts. So there was something that Shiloh said about, you know, when can you take a break and lifting people up so you can take a break. You know, I remember when I got to San Diego Pride maybe almost 11 years ago, we were a much smaller crew. We were small but mighty, and there was a lot of sense of pride in working the 48 hours Pride weekend and like, oh my God, I worked so hard and I'm there for 12 hours and I give blood, sweat, and tears. And it's like, yeah, that's great. We want you to do as much as you want to a healthy limit. To a healthy limit. We don't want you to burn out. We don't want you to be running yourself ragged. There's dehydration that weekend, stress, like we want you to take care of yourself. Okay, and that's the other piece of building capacity and building this stairway to leadership. Like, we all love how hard we work. And there's honor in that and dignity in that. And it's not an expectation of this organization that we run it into the ground. Okay. The first priority is you and making sure that you're okay. And I'm taking a moment to pause about that because for 2 years, we have been through massive trauma, emotional labor, physical labor. And we're not all healed from that yet, okay? And I know everyone is in this room because you care about our community, you want to serve, you want to find connection, and that's great. And I want you to serve to the degree that you want to serve. But I need you to also be really intentional about not burning yourself out. Pride should be a joy. Service should be a joy. And if you're not okay, we can't help other people be okay. Okay? And so, like, and I know I'm not great at it. I know I'm not perfect at it. None of us are perfect, by the way. Like, I know I need to be better about taking care of myself. I'm acknowledging that. And we all need to acknowledge that too. So as you're doing this work, building people up, building people in, be gentle with yourselves. It's been 3 years since we've done this. We're gonna make mistakes to Randy's point. Thank you for sharing. We all make mistakes all the time, and that's okay. We're gonna be imperfect. We're gonna be a little rowdy. We're gonna be a little loud. Check yourself. Be okay. Check in. Get that water. You know, go in the shade. Cool down. We're only gonna do this if we're gentle with each other and a little compassionate, not only with each other, but with ourselves about all the different ways that we've gone through trauma in the last few years. And so as we reemerge and help our community reemerge, it's going to be really important that we do so with care and compassion for everyone around us. It's okay to see an issue and bring it forward. Anytime between now and at Pride Weekend. Like, if there's a challenge, if there's an issue, if you're reaching an impasse, if you're struggling, if that's personal or professional, if there's some impediment to your success, bring it forward to your supervisor, to one of the staff members, to one of your colleagues here, to me personally. Like, we have a very open door policy. Like, we want to help, okay? So at no point should you be like, oh no, I can't do this, and I know we're deadline is Friday, and I have it. Girl, life happens, okay? And so, if we have to adjust a deadline or an expectation or redelegate out some responsibilities, please let us know. We have to be compassionate to each other, and you can't like run up against that wall or some artificial timeline that we made. Like, yes, we have Pride in like 4 months, and yeah, it's a little scary. But we can be flexible with each other. We can be responsive to the ever-changing needs of what's happening in our personal lives and our professional lives as we look forward to putting on Pride. And so I just wanted to take some intentional time to reflect on that, because what we've been through, what we're going through even right now as an organization and losing Bob for a period of time, like, we're all having to adjust, right? It doesn't feel great after a couple of years of not feeling great, and it's okay, all right? So just thanks for letting me take us through that. If you want to check in more, I'm here this whole time. We're going to go into breakouts, okay? But thank you for letting me, and hopefully you reflecting on what that means to center your own self-care and be adaptive in that, okay? Now I'm going to get out of my ASMR voice. Okay, so we're ready to break. Do we have any other announcements before we go to breakouts?
Are we dismissing from break?
We're going to take a little break, and then go to breakouts? Oh, are we
leaving from break?
Can I get the parade and festival senior leadership up here if you're a manager or an assistant manager? I just want folks to be able to see who folks are. Parade. So, does leadership, do you want to come back, or no, do you want to dismiss? Dismiss?
Also asking so that Dave can hand out prizes before we go to break.
Oh, you want to do prizes before we go to break? Thank you. Okay, let's do the prizes. So, and then entertainment, can entertainment leadership stand up or be acknowledged in some way? Okay. So, entertainment, you're going to be, I know we're not breaking yet, so we're going to do some prizes. We're going to take a little break before our breakouts too. So, festival, if you are part of festival leadership, or if you are new and you are interested in being in one of the many departments in festival, please stay here. Festival will be in here. If you are in parade, or you would like to be in parade, we will be over in this room off to the side. Just follow the wonderful Cheryl Ann when we go in that direction, and Ben Mendoza. And then, so yeah, entertainment will be out in the side over there. What do you call it? Philmar? MC Phil. Marketing, communications, and philanthropy, if you are interested in those departments. Also out there, there's a few different tables and chairs. And then Dave, so if you're in finance and operations, or connected with Dave, we're there. Medical, you are, I believe, meeting with parade, festival. If you're medical, you're meeting with festival today. Any other adjustments?
Lizzie, if you want to meet with us.
Oh, accessibility folks who came today, yes, festival. Thanks for coming down. Yes.
Folks that are new, what to do.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We're over there. It's all good.
Challenge by choice.
You know what? It's called trust and verify. There's no shame in that. All right. Okay. Trust and verify. Okay. So prizes.
What do we got?
What's the prize? What's the first one? First prize. Okay. We got a Sony Bluetooth headset. Okay, if you last four numbers are 2174, 2174. Here's the thing.
I actually do need a headset.
Okay. Oh, by the way, everyone, please welcome Shane James, our new Central Projects Manager. They just started 2 weeks ago, and you were already here to see Kristen and I at the last meeting, but again, welcome Kristen and I, our newest, whatever, our newest staff members. One more. Oh. Welcome to the 75th annual Hunger Games. Okay. Oh yeah, there's like a World War II, III. Where we at? Going on. Better news. Weapons are under your seats, ready, and where am I?
Oh my God, please.
We're in church. It is Saturday. 2196. 2196. For the people who don't speak Spanish, you're in Southern California. Let's get on that. 2196. 21. Yeah, we were here first. 2196. Creo. Mira, soy latino. Chapada Jalisco. Oh. 2196.
2212, that's what I heard.
That's what I heard. Let's get a recording. All right. So go ahead, and I think we're ready for break. Okay, we're ready for break. Take a break. Come back. Festival, parade, entertainment, Marcom. 10 minutes, and y'all got that. New folks, please head out to the departments. Your questions.
My face was all up in there.